opinions, not necessarily those of News Radio 1040 WHO.
Yeah, I sort of have to write off this first hour as kind of a lost leader. But after that, we're going to talk with Bill Federer and Dr. Steve Kirby. We're going to talk about Sharia law, and they're having a seminar coming up this weekend here in Des Moines. Good morning, Congressman Latham.
Well, good morning, Jan. It's great to be with you.
I could fix that.
I'm sure you will.
Welcome aboard.
It's always interesting to be with you here this morning.
Interesting is your way of threatening me, isn't it?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Not you.
I don't think you take threats well. So.
That's Latham's. That's Latham's. You're very interesting. He says, if you do that again, I will hit you.
Never.
Well, welcome aboard.
Great to be here, Jim.
You are campaigning for the new district, which is what?
Well, there's 16 counties. Polk County is the northeast corner. Basically, the counties I currently have, and Warren and Madison and Dallas, and then it goes straight over west to Council Bluffs and all of southwest Iowa. We've been.
That's a weird and strong and long district, isn't it?
It's actually, I currently have 28 counties that stretch from Warren County up to Alameda County up the northeast corner of the state. So this is actually more compact, and it's a great district. I'm looking forward to it. We've met a lot of really good people throughout the district.
Well, that's you being positive.
Sure.
Right? Now, you didn't mention the people that you met on the other side that are not so good. Did you have a list?
I do not have a list.
You check it twice?
I enjoy meeting people and getting out and visiting and listening.
Did the computer generate these new districts, or did they make sense, or what?
Well, the variance is very, very small. It's like 7 people is the variance in the district. So whether it's done computer generated, the Legislative Service Agency is the department in the State House there that does the maps. It's supposedly nonpartisan. They come up with proposals. The numbers are very, very close, so it's really hard to argue with it.
So nobody's complaining.
No, I think we have a system here that people understand is that generally not being partisan. There's no gerrymandering. They go by the numbers, and the variances are very tight. So how can you argue with a map that comes out? And really, this map is great.
Well,
for
they're
me.
not really gerrymandered. I mean, they're not really strange and weird shaped districts.
Right.
They're just blocks.
Right.
And just a question of where the borders are going to be.
Well, we've gone, from 5 to 4.
Who's responsible for that, by the way?
The census.
Yeah. Why aren't Iowans reproducing at a higher rate? And is there a government program that can get us going again?
I think the government maybe should. That's another thing we should stay out of in the federal government.
We could call it a stimulus package now. I think of it. Sorry.
But we've gone from 5 congressional districts, and in the next election we'll be at 4.
But we didn't lose population.
No, we actually slightly gained population.
So by what measure did we? Why were we penalized?
Well, we haven't kept up with the population growth in the rest of the country, basically. Places like Texas are gaining, I think, 4 seats. You've got some
California.
California is staying the same this time, which is unusual. Their population has been pretty flat. Florida picks up seats. You've got basically the Sun Belt down there has gained population.
What is the formula now? It's for every fill-in-the-blank of people.
It's about 750,000 people per congressional district.
You guys
on average.
Set that. That's not a constitutional number.
Well,
you guys set that yourselves, don't you?
What it is there are 435 members of the House of Representatives. You take the population, you divide it by 435 and come up with that number, and then you try to fit it in with variance. You've got some states, the Dakotas, Montana, that only have 1 representative, even though their population may even be less than the 750. So you have to take that into consideration. Mm-hmm. But it basically just goes by the numbers, and if you we're almost on the bubble 10 years ago, and this year we just didn't keep up.
Okay. Are we going to keep this, you figure? I mean, it's going to be every 10 years we're going to have to think about this again.
But we have to have a census every 10 years, and then you have reapportionment of congressional districts every 10 years following the census.
Lots of things to talk about here, but now that we're talking about apportionment, reapportionment, and voting tangentially, there's a movement to go to a popular vote and get rid of the Electoral College. What's your thinking on that? And some people right here in Iowa are pushing that at a high level.
It is a solution looking for a problem as far as I'm concerned. For a state like Iowa, we would never see a presidential candidate in this state because they would only go to the high population states, and that's where all the emphasis would be. We would not attract any interest around here. For us to have any kind of influence into the process, to have an influence as to who is the next president, leader of the free world, we would lose that if, in fact, we went to that type of system.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, to me it's just wrong. We've got to, I think, maintain the idea of the electoral votes based on, we're going to go from 7 to 6 in the next presidential election just because we've lost a House seat. So you have each of the congressional districts plus each state has 2 electoral votes. So we're diminished somewhat now by 1 vote in the Electoral College because of the population shift. But if it was winner take all, if the state would go to whoever the national winner is, it basically loses any influence we have here in Iowa.
In fact, most of the small states.
Absolutely.
This would all be decided in urban areas.
Right. Which would change the dynamics dramatically.
And that's exactly what our bicameral system was designed to avoid in the first place.
Right.
You just see what I did. I switched on this gadget over here, this device. That means that from now on, the rest of this interview, at least for the next 2 questions, you have to answer honestly, or you will receive a jolt.
Okay.
And I alone will be determining whether I think you're answering honestly.
Okay.
I can tell by your pupil dilation if your nostrils flare, if you're going to tell the truth or not. So your comfort zone is now engaged here. There's something to be. You're at risk, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
You've always been up for this in the past,
sure.
and you've recovered nicely from the last time this happened, and you came back again. So it's okay. Well,
I'm ready.
All right. So the debate last night. Did you watch any of that?
I watched maybe half of it. It was interesting. I'm not sure in that format that you really get in depth as far as any answers because they give you 30 seconds or 60 seconds
to fix the world's problems.
To change, how you're going to save the world, right?
Yeah. Well, you worked with at least 2 of these people. You worked with Newt Gingrich when he was the speaker, and you were of his class, I think, weren't you?
I came in '94. Yeah, Newt was there obviously before that, but he was our speaker for 4 years. Yes.
And you've worked with Michelle Bachmann,
right? And Ron Paul.
I forgot. I'm sorry.
Sure.
So I'd like to get your evaluation. I know this is politically risky, but the Newt Gingrich. You worked with him. He's a very, very smart fellow, and he's a wonderful historian. Assess how effective was he as a speaker, and do you think he is of executive material? Now, keep in mind, I've got this gadget on him.
I understand.
And
that. And Jan, I don't endorse in.
I'm not asking you to.
I know. No, I personally, I think Newt is extremely smart. He is an ideas guy. He really thinks outside the box. He gets enthusiastic on issues and really focuses on those.
Those are his strengths.
His strength. And I would say the only thing that would be of concern to me is that oftentimes back when he was speaker on Wednesday mornings, we'd have the Republican conference. All the Republican members get together. He'd come up with a great new idea. Everybody would be ready to go. And then sometimes the next day, maybe he'd be on a different track. And that would be of concern to me.
Like hitting a moving target.
Well, but he's just brilliant. I mean, he really is as far as defining issues, as far as coming up with real solutions. And I don't know whether it was staff. It could have been back then, but sometimes the focus wouldn't stay where the direction was we'd hoped to go.
Michelle Bachmann, she's our neighbor to the north. She's
one of the nicest people you'll ever want to be around.
Do you sense Why do you think she wanted to to take it to the next step? And
she truly believes in what she's doing. I respect that. I don't always agree with her, but I have absolute respect for why she's doing it, because she cares. She is someone who, her history as far as all the children that she's taken in, raised herself, and
is what you see what
outreach.
You get? I mean, is she pretty much is she an open book?
Right. No, she is absolutely, and she, the motivation, certainly was the president's health care bill that she just strongly opposes, as I do. But this has been the focus of her campaign to repeal that health care bill, and she is very genuine, very real, and I have tremendous respect. I just, personally, she is just a wonderful person.
Now, Ron Paul, he's been around in that office for quite a while. And he's been in the political sphere at one level since the late 60s. He's been in and out of office. He's a physician. He's been a presidential candidate. Now this is his second time. And he's a prolific writer. But I know you guys are, by temperament and by philosophy, you guys are not on the same page. But he is. So how would you assess him, though? Because you've worked with him.
Right.
They called him for a long time. They call him Dr. No, simply because whatever the vote was, it was no.
Right. And I do town hall meetings, and some people will bring up that he votes no on everything. And,
yes, it's a pretty safe
even
thing.
Some, for Mother's Day or something like that, honoring mothers. But just because he truly believes the federal government shouldn't be doing stuff like that.
Yes.
Again, there is an individual on a personal level. I just really like Ron Paul. I mean, I tell you, he's a wonderful guy to visit with, and he has been someone who is, as you know, Jan, has been way ahead of this whole economic meltdown. He's the one that's brought these issues up now for decades, and people should have listened to him for a long, long time. Now, there's certain things just policy-wise, foreign affairs, some things that he's come up with that I disagree with, but I have absolute respect for Ron Paul, and he's been someone who has again thought outside the box, who looks at things in a different way than most people, and very, very genuine.
So if I mean, this is on a generational basis, if Ron Paul and his philosophy had been in control for the last 30 years versus maybe Newt Gingrich's philosophy over the last 30 years, is it a jump ball situation, or would we have been better off had been listening to traditional Republicans, or?
Well, it's hard to. I can't tell you what the future would have been.
I could.
Well, I'm sure you could, but
I could review that off the air.
There wouldn't be a Federal Reserve. We'd be on a gold standard.
Yes.
Our economy would be a lot more stable, certainly,
and we wouldn't be involved in a couple of two or three wars.
Right.
It's easy. It's kind of interesting to play the what ifs. Mm-hmm. So if that's the case. I'm just thinking about the future. Listening to these guys debate last night and talking about the economy mainly, listening to some of the cliches, some of the bumper stickers, and some of the stuff was really profound. It's making this choice right now is really very difficult for Iowans.
And extraordinarily important.
And Iowans still haven't settled on somebody yet. We're toying, and I shouldn't say toying, that's not the right word. We're seriously pondering several, and Iowans haven't really settled on somebody yet. Do you think we will?
I am not sure, because we have a field.
Walk into that place in January and won't decide until the last second?
I think there's going to be a lot of folks in that situation, because it seems, each time that individual kind of rises in the polls, that certainly the national media gets on them and tries to destroy them and bring them down again. But I think it's going to be a very, very close caucus this year. I think there's going to be an organizational test. We've got folks out there working every day trying to line up their support to get people to every caucus in the precinct in the state in a cold night in January. And that's really what it's all about. But the unifying thing, Jan, is the fact that we know we cannot continue with this president, with the current administration, because of the disaster that they have inflicted on this country.
Well, when we come back here in just a moment, Congressman Tom Latham, we'll add voices to this conversation. Folks, if you'd like to talk with Congressman Tom Latham, he wants to be returned to the Congress in the new district. He's running against incumbent Leonard Boswell, and the forum belongs to you. You can